Good morning. Good morning. Would you pray with me as we begin? Father, now we are so thankful for opportunities to be in your house and to open up your word. We pause right now to recognize that it is your Spirit who will be speaking to us as we read. And so, Father, we want to hear what your Spirit has to say to us. Help us to open up our minds and hearts to you today. That what you say to us may be something we need to hear. And if it is something that you want us to know for our lives, then we will take it to heart and use it for our benefit and for your light to shine brighter for us. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you would, turn your Bibles to Hebrews chapter 10. As you're looking for that, I'll just kind of let you know that I don't know if you can tell, it feels like I'm talking in a vacuum. I've been sick throughout this last week. It's not been one of those sicknesses where I was just, knocked out. But I tell you what, it's hard to focus this last week. Because all the time all I want to do is lay my head down and go to sleep. But I've had some sore throats, I've had some coughing and some sneezing and some somewhat sleepless nights. And so if you can hear it, then you understand where I'm coming from. But me, it sounds like it sounds gross. I wouldn't want to listen to me today. But I am told that when I was a young child, I was probably maybe no more than 3 years old. So I don't remember any of this. But I'm told that when my brothers and sisters and I were younger, we would play church. We would take dining chairs and set them up in rows, and we would conduct a worship service. Dina would be the song leader. Jeff would be the preacher, because he's the oldest. And Gary and I were in the congregation. Gary would have been maybe no more than 5 at the time. And so we would sing, and we would pray, we would have communion and give an offering, and Jeff would give some sort of message. I don't remember any of it, because I don't remember doing this. But then he would give an invitation, and one of us would come forward to be baptized. I don't know how many times we were baptized, but we would go down the stairs, and many of you have houses like this, where you walk in the door and you either go upstairs or downstairs. 6 steps up or 6 steps down. And down in that landing area, that was the baptistry. And we would go down to the baptistry, and Jeff would baptize us, and we'd come up and we'd say, "How I belong to Jesus," because that's what Christian preachers do. And so we would play church. Well, when I think about what we were doing back then, we say we were playing church, but I think we were more imitating church. We were trying to imitate what we had seen and heard. Because I think playing church is really for those who claim to have a relationship with Jesus, but have very little or no evidence of that relationship. See, what we were doing as children was cute. But what I'm talking about when we really get to the adults and we play church offends God. The Apostle John spends much of his first 2 chapters in his letter making the case that claiming and being are 2 different things. For example, in 1 John chapter 1, verse 6, he says, "If we claim to have fellowship with him, yet walk in the darkness, we lie, and we do not live by the truth." When we get to the point, we can talk about that verse we could really stretch that out and really get into some details concerning it. But don't you get the point? If you say you're a Christian, if you claim His name, if you post about your faith on Facebook, if you somehow attach yourself to Christ and His church, yet you do not show yourself faithful to those claims, then you are just lying. Now, does that sound harsh? I bet it does. But if you think that's harsh, wait till we get to the text. What I just shared with you is mild compared to what we're seeing in the text. But before we get to the text, let's review a bit, because we're picking up today in a series of messages from Hebrews that we left 7 weeks ago. I mean, just because of the calendar. We got into December, where we had a message about prayer, which is what we were doing in 2014. One sermon a month on prayer. And then we got into Christmas, a couple of Christmas messages, which we're still, one of them was in Hebrews. But then we got to the first part of the year, and all the stuff that has happened in the first part of this month, and you know what those things are. But we've not finished Hebrews yet. And so we're going to come back, even though we've had a 7-week gap. And I know it may feel a little bit disjointed. It may feel like, well, that was a long time ago. I don't even remember what we talked about. And I can understand that. But we're going to try to get the connection back. We're going to try to finish out the series that we entitled Greater Than. And what we've learned in the first 10 chapters so far is that it's simply this. God established His old covenant to point His people forward to a new and perfect covenant, based on a perfect, once for all time sacrifice, and administered by a perfect and eternal high priest. All of this is fulfilled in the person of Jesus Christ. And since this new covenant has been established, God, in chapter 10, invites us to draw near to Him through Jesus, to be cleansed from our sins, to be made holy, and to honor Him with the entirety of our lives. In other words, no claiming to be God's children, but being God's children in everything that we say and do. So as we pick up in our text today, verse 26 of Hebrews chapter 10, we need to be reminded that this letter was written to Christians who are struggling with their faith and their commitment to God. And I would just pause and say this: if that describes you, I'll tell you this would be a difficult passage for you. If it describes someone you know, this would be a very important passage for you. This passage gives us some very important warnings about judgment. But one thing you know, grace is greater than judgment. And that's really what we're focused today. Grace is greater than judgment. Let's take a look at the text. Hebrews chapter 10, starting with verse 26. If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and a raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. Anyone who rejected the law of Moses died without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severely do you think a man deserves to be punished who has trampled the Son of God under books, who has treated as an unholy thing the blood of the covenant that sanctified him, and who has insulted the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay." And again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Remember those earlier days after you had received the Lord, when you stood your ground, a great contest and faced up. Sometimes you were publicly exposed to insult and persecution. At other times you stood side by side with those who were so treated. You sympathized with those in prison and joyfully accepted the confiscation of your property, because you knew that you yourselves had better and lasting possessions. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be rich and rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. For in just a little while, He who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one will live by faith. And if he shrinks back, I will not be pleased with him. But we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who believe and are saved. I think we all know, really in our hearts and minds, the grace is greater than judgment. But there is no grace available if we throw it back into God's face. That is what we are doing if we deliberately continue to sin after having received His grace. See, we're not talking about someone who slipped into sin, someone who has experienced remorse, someone who pleads for God's forgiveness. God's made provision for that. What we're talking about is someone who knows the truth of God, yet boldly walks in the path of sin and chooses to travel there. I mean, let's make sure we're clear on this. We are not talking about the occasional sin committed by a Christian. We're talking about a lifestyle of ignoring God's Spirit and God's Word and living in sin while claiming something else. Our text says that a person who lives like that there is no sacrifice of sin left, that a fearful expectation of judgment is coming, that they have treated as unholy the blood of the covenant that sanctified him, that a person who lives like this has insulted the Spirit of grace. And God is a loving and forgiving and gracious God, but God has His limits. I think that's something that many people think. Oh, He's loving and gracious. He will forgive me. Well, it doesn't matter what I do. I think some people even think I don't even have to ask Him forgiveness. He's just loving. He's that loving grandpa that will just accept you no matter what. And He wants to accept you. He wants to give you grace. But He has His limits. And if we can recognize that this new covenant is greater than the old, that the blessings and the rewards are greater than the blessings and the rewards of the old covenant, then we need to understand that the judgment under this new covenant is greater than judgment under the old covenant. But also grace is greater too. I mean, in the text, and this is probably the most unnerving verse in the Bible to me. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. That is the most unnerving, most frightful verse to me in the Bible. Because if I fall into the hands of the living God, it's not much good for me. Because I will face judgment rather than grace. But can we stop there for just a moment? Because to fall into the hands of the living God means that I have trampled underfoot on God. It means that I have disregarded, really disregarded what Christ has done for me. I may claim it, I may say I'm a Christian, but my lifestyle has no connection to the claim. I might even go to church. And some people might say that's the redeeming quality. But outside the church, my lifestyle does not show a dependence on God. My lifestyle may even show a complete neglect or disdain for God. Let me ask you this question, and I would even welcome some response from you. How might someone trample underfoot the Son of God? What does that look like? What does it look like when a person who is claiming to be a follower of Jesus, what does it look like when they trample the Son of God under their feet? I mean, if you got something to share. I mean, tell me, what's it look like? It's not something we really like to talk about, is it?
It's like wearing a mask.
Like wearing a mask. Right? When I was in high school, that was a big thing. That was the big imagery that we had, was wearing a mask. You know, where, you know, you looked on the outside like a Christian, but inside you're being eaten up by sin. Let me think about it. What are things that a so-called Christian might do that really is trampling Jesus Christ under their feet? Maybe one of those things is right there in the context of where we are in Hebrews chapter 10. One of them might be not joining the assembly of believers. I mean, really, you take a look at Hebrews chapter 10, verse 19 starts with really the response to everything we've seen from chapter 1 to chapter 10. So here's the response. Because of what we know now, here's what we do. We draw near to God with clear consciences. We encourage one another, spur each other on. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. And if we keep on deliberately sinning, I mean, it's right there, right next up, right in the context. Could it be that our neglect of being, you're not neglecting it today, by the way, that our neglect of being in the house of God and worship could be trampling the Son of God underfoot? Because here's the question. If you didn't come to church today, what would be the reason? Would it be because you're sick? Well, that's acceptable. Would it be because 10 o'clock is just too early? Would it be because I made no plans? Would it be, well, I'll be at church as long as something better doesn't come along. Now, I have to ask you this question, because I'm going to deal with the text. But let's put the shoe on the foot. If you're getting your family together, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. You're going to get your family together. And you make all these plans, you do all these things, and you say, come and be with me, let's be together. And you're expecting to see everybody, but they don't show up. And you call them up and you say, well, why didn't you come? Well, it's too early or it's too late. Or, I was just too busy, too tired. Stayed up late. Or maybe it was, well, something better came along. How would you feel? You would feel like you've been trampled. And when God's people neglect coming to church for the sake of convenience or some other rationalization, how do you think that makes me feel? I chose to do something else. Because in reality, Jesus, it's important to me when I want it to be important to me. That's not the only way that we can trample the Son of God underfoot. Another way would be just defying him. I'm not necessarily saying that I have this defiant attitude towards him. That he says, I want you to do this, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. No. Now, there may be some of that in our lives. A lot of times I think that defiance is something that we may not even really know we're doing. You know why? Because we've closed off our ears to the things we don't want to hear. And if I didn't hear it, or if I really didn't pay attention to it, if it really was something that I didn't want to hear, so I got distracted and I did something else, then I'm really not defying God, I just didn't know. But my question is does that make any difference to God? And when God says, I want you to forgive, and you don't, trampling the Son of God underfoot, because think about the forgiveness and the grace that He's extended to you. He's not just going to give it to everybody else too. But God, you don't understand. I don't understand. You sinned against me. I forgave you. And you're not going to forgive someone else? That's just one example of us defying God. And we may not even think we're doing it. I mean, basically, I can list a whole lot of things of how to trample the Son of God underfoot. There's really just two things there. But if we're going to be deliberate about God, I mean, the text begins with this whole idea of being deliberate. Well, if we're not going to, if we don't want to deliberately sin, then we're going to be deliberate about something else. Let's be deliberate about God. If we're going to be deliberate about God, then we want to be deliberate about continuing in our faith rather than abandoning it. We want to be deliberate about hope rather than turning our backs on it. Otherwise, there will be a fearful expectation of judgment rather than a joyful anticipation of grace. And that's where our text now leads us. The anticipation of grace. Judgment really is what we deserve. But grace is what God offers to those who hope, find their hope in Him, and who remain faithful to Him. Now, the author of Hebrews encourages us to look, take a look. He first says, look back. Remember the early days of your faith. Now, to those who received this letter, those days were filled with struggles. But if you look back at the earlier days of your faith, what will you remember? Few of us have to say that when we became followers of Jesus, that we were disowned by our family. Or we were publicly persecuted for our faith. We can look back at the first days of our faith and we can be grateful. Those were good days. But the people who received this letter, they suffered for the name of Jesus when they came into the family. They had experienced His grace. They were living for Him rather than themselves. But they didn't fear what man might do to them because God's grace had guaranteed them a lasting reward. Yet now, in the midst of some time going by, they're wondering, is it worth it? But first we need to look back and see what it was that brought us to Jesus and remember what it was like when we first gave ourselves to Him. I mean, we're given the same grace as was given to those people. And we're guaranteed the same reward that they were guaranteed. And whereas the struggles for them are more of the persecution kind. We do have our own struggles today, don't we? Whether we're being persecuted for our faith or something's going on in our lives which might make us question a little bit about our faith. We need to remember what it was that brought us to Jesus in the first place. Will you look at the circumstances and wonder? Or will you look back and see the God who saved you? And remember what you have to hold on to. So we're told to look back. Remember the grace that you first received. But now also, he says, look ahead. Look ahead. He says, God was with you back then. You need to know that God is with you now and will always be with you. He wouldn't bring you this far to leave you. He would lift you up so that he could let you down. And if you would compare the sufferings we face in this life to the blessings that still are ahead, then you're not going to go this way. The Apostle Paul said like this in Romans chapter 8. He says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Yeah. In a way, I would say, yeah, look at it. Look how bad it is. Look how good it's going to be. And Paul says, that's not even worth comparing. There's no comparison. Because what we have waiting for us is going to be so much better. You're not even going to realize. You're not even going to remember how bad it was. Because it's going to be so good. Our faith in the grace of God gives us confidence to look ahead with hope and have a glimpse of that future glory. Now, I have a question I want to ask you. I think it's a pretty easy question for you to answer. You don't have to answer out loud, but I think I know what your answer is. Would you rather receive judgment or receive grace? I'm guessing if I went through and asked every one of you in here today, which would you have rather receive? Judgment or grace? 100% of you would say grace. And I'm not just talking about grace from God. I'm talking about grace, period, from people. I mean, I know as children, we would rather have received grace than judgment from our parents. You know, when you did something wrong and you were going to get in trouble, didn't you want grace? As young people, we would rather receive grace than judgment from our parents and our teachers. You know, we would have liked to see that B plus turned into an A, or that D into a B. You know, that's a lot of grace right there. We would have wanted to receive some grace. And as adults, we would rather receive grace and judgment from our bosses, from our spouses, and from the police. You know, because of who you are. I mean, you get what I'm saying. Nobody wants to face judgment and be punished for the wrongs they committed. Nobody wants. We all like to receive grace in spite of the wrongs we committed. And if given the opportunity, I'd like to think that we would all extend grace rather than judgment if it's in our power. But that's what God has done. He's extended grace to us. He leaves it to us to accept and to respond to it by living by faith. That's what we see in church. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 38, it says, but my righteous one will live by faith. Truth is, I'm not perfect. Neither are you. We can agree on that, probably. We've all sinned against God. But I know that I'd rather receive His grace than receive His judgment. I don't know if you've ever heard of Judgement Edwards or not. Judgement Edwards was a preacher back in the 1700s, mostly known to us for one sermon entitled "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God." He preached this sermon on July 8th, 1741, in Enfield, Connecticut. Now, when I think about preachers of those days, I think about these great orators that just had powerful voices that commanded the crowd, and they would get so worked up, and they were so powerful, and the typical fire and brimstone kind of preacher. That's the kind of imagery I had in my head of preachers of those times. I don't know about you, but that's what I said. But what I think was completely wrong as to what reality was, at least for Jonathan Edwards. Jonathan Edwards actually, when he preached, spoke softly and simply. And when you think about the title, "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God," that's kind of what I thought. That's why it's sound. But Edwards spoke softly and simply, warning the unconverted that they were dangling over hell like a spider over the fire. And here's what he said: "O sinner, consider the fearful danger. The unconverted are now walking over the pit of hell on a rotten covering, and there are innumerable places in this covering so deep that it will not bear their wings. And these places are not seen. Pleading with them, not yelling at them. Pleading with them to receive the grace of God rather than judgments. And that's why 500 men and women received God's grace. Now this is something that must get inside of us. This is touch us. It must move us. It must haunt us. The thought that there are those who will face judgment of God and spend eternity without Him should cause us to shudder. The grace of God in our lives should spark a fire within us to say to every sinner, "Come, experience the grace of God. Please." And at the same time, we must be honest with ourselves and with God. Am I playing church? Am I living like a follower of Jesus? Have I convinced myself with my claims that I am walking with God in truth? There's really not much evidence to back up those claims. Well, if that's where you are, you can turn that around today. You can give Him your all and receive His grace. You can find relief in Him and use His grace and minister to others in need. Because grace is greatest in the judgment. Let's pray. Father in heaven, I thank You for Your grace. And I pray that each day we will experience it even more. Help us to understand the grace of God that one time have given to us. But it is something that You offer to us every day. We live by Your grace. So, Father, help us to remember what it is You've given to us, and even what it is You still offer to us. May we give You our best. May we surrender to You the parts of our lives that we have called You The parts of our lives that, if we don't give them over to you, might just bring us to a point in time where we stand before you in judgment rather than fall into your grace. Father, you are loving and forgiving, God, and we thank you for that. But also help us to understand that you must do what is right and just by your nature. But help us to surrender ourselves to you, to let you have every part of our being for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You know, I like that story, Campus, that you told about the necklace. You know, a little girl gives this lady this necklace, and she says it's a diamond necklace, but the price tag says it's $14.95. The truth of the matter is, to her, it was valuable. You know, when in reality, it wasn't very valuable at all. You know, one of the ways that we have, throughout Christian, culture, we've taught what grace is with the acronym that is God's riches at Christ's expense. And I think, God has given us a priceless gift. But what the text says that we might go online, maybe it's here's what's really happening for some Christian people. God has given us a priceless gift, but we treat it like it's a $14.95 necklace. That we don't treat it very much like a priceless or valuable gift. We sure don't want to do that. We don't want to take for granted what God has done for us. We don't want to trample underfoot what Jesus has accomplished for us. We want to lift him up. And to do that, we need to accept his grace. We're going to sing our new decision. We're going to sing the song Amazing Grace. See verses 1, 2, and 5, I think it is. First, second, and last verses. If you have a decision to follow Jesus today, maybe come to the very first class to receive his grace. We invite you to do that. To kind of turn back on a life without God, to live a life with God. But for the Christian here today, we're always evaluating how we're living. Do you need to receive that grace again? Do you need to commit your life to him again? Do you need to find yourself on the right path again? God's grace can do that for you. If you need to make a decision to honor him today, then I invite you to come forward too, to give him your all, to surrender to him. So let's stand together and sing Amazing Grace. Let's give the honor and glory to God.